Yeah, please.
Speak to the fact that Teach for America teachers are only temporary, they only stay for 2 years most of the time. Do you think that has any effect on the schools or how the students feel, the morale?
I think it does. So, a few statistics. I don't know if I mentioned this. My master's degree is in statistical methods for measuring teacher quality, so I spend a lot of time in the nerd room figuring these things out. So statistically, Teach for America teachers commit to teach for 2 years. 92% actually do, right? So 8% of teachers actually drop out before that. In low-income communities, the average, if you look at like non-Teach for America teachers, the average lifespan is 1.5 years. So that's not true in all schools. In the schools we serve, teachers don't last long. Okay, that's a tragic indictment of a lot of our schools. So, does it have a negative impact? Yes. I believe that that negative impact is less than the positive impact of that second half of our mission, of the fact that we now have leaders across America who've had this experience. The number one person who comes to mind is like Michelle Reed, right? She did Teach for America, taught for 2 years, was a great teacher, left, went to law school. I take that back. She did an MPP, public policy. Had a career in public policy, and then a few years ago was asked to be the chancellor of schools in Washington, D.C., and took them from being the worst performing school district in America to about the middle of the pack. Right? Instead of changing 30 kids' life outcomes at a time, she left. Did that have some negative impact? Yes, it did have some negative impact. However, she fundamentally changed the educational outcomes for hundreds of thousands of students, and is now changing the way we think about education in America. To me, that was worth her leaving. And that's our mission. That's why we recruit not just teachers, but leaders. That, yes, we recognize there is some negative impact of teachers leaving schools. However, I think that's outweighed by the potential for long-term influence. Great question. Yeah, thanks.
Do you think making a longer academic calendar would make a difference in low-income communities?
I sure do. In fact, yeah, when you look at America's outcomes as a nation, we rank 21st out of 30 industrialized nations in science, 25th out of 30 in math, and all the students who rank ahead of us have 240-day school years, and we have 180. Now, as I think about the disparity here again, in terms of low-income and more affluent areas, in low-income areas, what do you do during summer break? You're in the street. In more affluent communities, what happens in summer break? You go to Africa, you take piano lessons, you go to soccer camp. There's a whole bevy of options available to you that actually enhance your education, right? I imagine that was the case for many of us in this room, who our summer activities actually supplemented our education in ways that we weren't getting in the classroom. However, in particular in low-income communities where that kind of supplement is less likely to be available, I feel it's crucial that we both extend the day and extend the days. And to go even a step further from there, teachers are paid very well per hour. I had a job offer from Booz Allen Hamilton Consulting. I made more per hour teaching than I would have consulting. But teachers are paid for 6 hours a day for 180 days a year, right? Half the day is half the time. And as a result, the incentives are such that top graduates at top universities are more likely to go work for a consulting firm than for a school district. But if we just paid them to teach, if they just taught more, right, then we could pay them more, and all of a sudden we would attract a higher quality teacher to the classroom. Awesome question.
How do you feel like charter schools are helping the achievement capital? And like, does Teach for America do any work with charter schools?
Great question. So, again, the stats nerd. Some of America's best schools are charter schools, some of America's worst schools are charter schools. On average, they're only slightly better. We're talking like 52nd percentile on average. However, almost all of the best schools in low-income school districts are charter schools. That also means that most of the worst ones are, right? So basically what a charter does is it frees you of the constraints that typical schools are bound by, both in terms of, union contracts as well as other district regulations. And that frees you up to do innovative things. A lot of those innovations fail, and a lot succeed. We're getting a much clearer picture now that we've been doing charter schools for a few years of what the differences are. And I think I'm excited to move in a more positive direction as as an econ major, I think that more competition only generates higher quality. So I'm definitely an advocate of charter schools. That's not necessarily, Teach America itself takes no stance. We do place teachers into charter schools. Here in Detroit, we have a lot of teachers in charter schools. And again, this is not a Teach America opinion, this is an Adam Wilson opinion. I think that by being able to get around the dictates of the union contract, so union contracts treat all teachers the same, right? Regardless of how you're producing, regardless of the quality of the education you're providing, you're paid exactly the same thing. And so as a result, teachers are treated like cogs, right? It doesn't matter if you're good or bad, you're all paid the same. Charters aren't bound by that. Well, some charters are not bound by that. And I think that's a direction we need to move in. To recognize that there's different quality of education being produced, and therefore ought to be compensated accordingly. Yeah.
What do you think about teacher tenure? Because I grew up in California and you get tenure after 2 years. And I was amazed by that because of how, a teacher wouldn't show a lot in 2 years, they get tenure, and then they'd be horrible for 30 years, or they'd be great for 30 years. It just seems like a little bit too early to decide.
There's more than a little bit, right? I'm a tenured teacher in California. 2 years, I'm tenured, right? If I went back there, you couldn't fire me no matter what I did. I mean, as long as I wasn't literally molesting children, you would have no way of getting rid of me, right? That's what it takes. That's literally what it takes to get rid of a teacher. And so, I mean, across America, this is an incredible problem. In New York, there's like classrooms full of teachers who we are paying not to teach because they're so bad, but we can't get rid of them. So, yes, I'm totally in favor of, I'm in favor of getting rid of tenure altogether. If that's not an option, like, 2 years is way too short a time. In my 2 years teaching in East San Jose, my principal came to my room twice. 2 times in 2 years. He had no idea. I could have been teaching about dinosaurs every day, all day. I had colleagues at my school who watched videos every day, all day. And yet they were observed twice, right? Once per year. The principal, honestly, has bigger fires to put out. And so, yeah, the tenure system is broken and needs to be scrapped.
I don't know how familiar you are with the MEAD program and the fact that public schools in Michigan pay per head of student who comes into the school on comp day. What do you think about that, and how can that be improved as an institution?
I honestly don't know. I don't know a lot about that. There's some things I like about tying school funding to heads, and that's just that competition in education is good, right? There hasn't been competition in education historically, and in the last 10 years we're starting to generate it. That's good. However, there's some, the way we're measuring it is bad, right? The way we're measuring it, on one day, that induces all these perverse incentives to funnel kids in on day one, who then you don't care about anymore. And yeah, so the way we're doing it, I think, is broken. However, the idea in and of itself, I haven't thought about that a lot, but I'm not opposed to the idea in and of itself, I guess. But maybe I haven't thought about it very carefully.
Okay, Teach for America teachers, they're fresh out of school for the most part, or
Yeah.
all of them. So they seem inexperienced, what makes them more qualified than other teachers?
Awesome question. Let me pull some statistics. So, I wish I could show you all this graph. There are a few things that we measure traditionally to determine teacher quality. In fact, these are even legislated in, what's it called? No Child Left Behind. And so the things that we traditionally use to determine teacher quality are level of certification, level of education, years of experience, and standardized test scores, right? So for 20 years, PhD statisticians have been measuring which of these things actually have an impact on students. I don't know what level of statistical background you have, but with